Hey folks, hope everyone continues to have an enjoyable and safe holiday season as we begin a new week here on Notre Dame Daily, of course brought to you by FanArch. I'm Pete Mulroy, and as this new week does begin, let's break down some of the things, some of the biggest news that came across over the extended Christmas weekend, with the most significant happenings impacting the offensive line. As we now know, starting left guard and captain Billy Schrauth has declared for the 2026 NFL Draft. A starter in South Bend for basically 3 seasons, Stroud served as one of ND's captains this year, helping to guide that offensive line that really became a reliable rock of protection for C.J. Carr, Jeremiah Love, and Jadarian Price, amongst others. With the announcement, Stroud now joins fellow Irish starter and captain Emil Wagner as that offensive line segment that's now headed to the next level. Though upsetting to lose two starters up front heading into next season, Joe Rudolph's bunch, when you break it down and look at it, is incredibly fortunate to have wildly talented depth from left to right, and it all comes from heightened recruiting successes under Marcus Freeman. As far as next season's line is concerned, you'd probably have Anthony Knapp as the left tackle once again, though there has been talk in the past, including here amongst us in our various chats and whatnot, that his future, given his size and strong run blocking skills, might be inside. Pairing him with a healthy Charles Jagasaw on the left side seems likely, regardless of whether it's Knapp at left tackle and Jagasaw at left guard or vice versa. To put it in some perspective from a size lens, that potential left side pairing of Knapp at 6'4", 300 and Jagasaw at 6'7", 330 would be a tremendous duo when it comes to paving the road for that backfield that's going to feature Aeneas Williams, Keidron Young, and Nolan James next season. As of right now, that's what's on the roster. Of course, you have incoming freshmen and potentially what happens in the portal. So that would be a nice little left side of the offensive line, though right now Anthony Knapp probably slated at left tackle with Jagasaw at left guard. It also provides a nice wall of protection on C.J. Carr's blind side, especially when you remember how improved Knapp has been in pass pro since his freshman season. Now, I'll dive more into the future of the O-line in upcoming shows, but just to round things off for the purposes of today's shows, Ashton Craig is going to be back at center. Joe Otting behind him. Gerby Lambert and Sullivan Absher are back as well. Will Black is also, and I know everybody's excited to see him at a higher clip, is going to be a major piece up front next season, perhaps as the day one right tackle. Overall, it hurts to lose a guy like Billy Schrauth and Emil Wagner as well. And for as successful as we believe both will be in the NFL, the Irish offensive line moving forward is also going to be incredibly successful. There's just too much talent there to think otherwise. You saw how Otting played when Craig went down, Lambert and Sullivan getting better as the year progressed. So there's a lot of depth, and you got young guys like Cam Herron in there as well, Chris Terek. There's a lot of good pieces there. So as this continues, and you don't know what's going to happen in the portal through that 2-week window in the portal, on into the spring, you get the blue gold game, and then you progress through that. It's going to be fun to track, and we will certainly do that here as well. Just transitioning out of the breakdown of each position group, specifically the offensive line, and I'll start to get into all of them as the offseason hits. We can do the same thing with the 2026 schedule game by game, but for now, I did want to give an update as to what it looks like, especially since Notre Dame filled that USC void with a 2-year pact with BYU. At present, Notre Dame's slate for the month of September is full, as it'll open September 6th against Wisconsin at Lambeau Field, followed by home showdowns with Rice and Michigan State the following 2 weeks, and a September 26th trip to West Lafayette to meet Purdue to end the month. From there, the Irish travel to Chapel Hill October 3rd to face North Carolina, with the next scheduled game that month coming on Halloween when they battle Navy in Foxborough. Dates for games at Syracuse, home for SMU, and at BYU are still to be determined, though it appears the showdown in Provo with BYU will be in mid-October. The Irish, of course, are also in the process of finalizing a game with Stanford in South Bend as well. The biggest game of the season, outside of perhaps week 1 at Lambeau and the BYU game, is the November 7th tilt in South Bend with the Miami Hurricanes. I'll be at that one, and the eyes of the college football world will be focused on it as well. If each game I just mentioned holds, by the way, particularly that Stanford rivalry, the final game of the month will come November 21st against Boston College inside Notre Dame Stadium. So when you look over it rather quickly, because again, we have plenty of time to dive into it, there are some damn good games on this schedule. Wisconsin, Miami, BYU, an up-tempo SMU squad who we know is talented. What should be an improved Syracuse group that was really snake-bit with injuries last year. A new-look Michigan State team under first-year head coach Pat Fitzgerald. And a trip to UNC. Those are all legitimate games. They're tough opponents. If the Irish are able to put together a fast start September 6th against Wisconsin, as I've said and many of you have said, and we all know, Freeman's teams need to be more ready to roll early in the season, then the road to perfection there, a road to a perfect season, is very much on the table. I'll start, again, getting more into these games, pretty much when we see what happens with the portal, some more finalization of these game dates, and how the makeup of each team appears, including Notre Dame, entering the spring. But, some folks seem to be poking fun and laughing when basically the first 11 or 12 games of this schedule came out a few weeks ago, and you kind of go back and look at it and say, Wisconsin's not going to be easy. Neutral site Lambeau Field. Miami's going to be a physical game. BYU's got a lot to prove, like Notre Dame from last year. They felt like they were snubbed, and they probably were, along with the Irish for the CFP. SMU, talented again. Michigan State could potentially be a wild card. You have to figure Syracuse is better, and then you got Belichick down in Carolina. So you win games like this against these top teams, including BYU and Miami. They have nice resume builders here for a Notre Dame team that is going to be amongst the higher ranked teams heading into next season. So there's a lot of moving parts still with this. Still got to finalize some things, namely what happens with Stanford and some TBD dates for those other games, including the SMU tilt right now, and BYU for that matter. But there are some legitimate games on that Notre Dame schedule. And I actually think that BYU, as much as it stings to lose the long-standing rivalry with USC, at least for now, and you would probably think they can't do anything about it until they have some wiggle room in as early as 2030, that BYU is a damn good replacement, because that's a well-coached team with Kalani Sitake, and that's a very good BYU team that's going to be returning next year. So some real good opportunity moving forward for Notre Dame from a schedule perspective. Back into the player side of things, and the Irish have themselves a new punter, James Rendell, out of eligibility. Petitioned the NCAA for one more. It was denied. Notre Dame, as a response, added former Australian rules footballer Jasper Scaife into the fold, a 6'5", 200-pound specimen. Scaife's going to join the Irish, a team he referred to as being, quote, the perfect fit as an early enrollee in January. And as is generally the case, his transition from Aussie football to American style won't be a breeze, but Scaife, who special teams coach Marty Biaggi says is just simply an athletic freak, should do just fine working his way into the nuances of the game. He's got a strong relationship with Biaggi, and that's key here. His connection to the program also runs through Rendell, as the two had the same trainer. This past season, Rendell was easily one of the best punters in the nation. So Biaggi and co are understandably excited about the prospect of striking gold once again, with soon-to-be sophomore Eric Schmidt as the only other punting option on the team. Scaife's arrival is massive here. He was a huge target of Notre Dame in 26, particularly for Biaggi. So this is yet again another example of Notre Dame going out on the recruiting trail and nailing its target. And just sticking with special teams here to wrap the show, while Schmidt will compete for the punter role with Scaife next season, he's now expected to be the primary place kicker for the Irish as well, at least right now. The main reason for that is because Schmidt is now the lone kicker on Notre Dame's roster after former five-star Marcello Diomede announced he's headed into the transfer portal. This past season, Diomede averaged nearly 65 yards per attempt across 16 kickoffs for the Irish, and he was 2 of 3 on PATs. His exit to the portal, which again opens January 2nd and runs through January 16th, along with Noah Burnett exhausting his eligibility, now means Schmidt is the only kicker on Marcus Freeman's roster. Freeman and Biaggi are going to undoubtedly be active in the portal as it pertains to adding a veteran kicker, though Schmidt's going to be given the opportunity to solidify the job. He was brought here for that reason. Just from some perspective of what might be available in the portal, you got former Texas kicker Will Stone, Minnesota's David Kemp, Auburn kicker Towns McGoo are some of the available players in the portal. So we'll see what avenue the Irish staff elects to drive down here. Despite some of the well-documented and massive struggles, that BC game from last season stands out on special teams and the kicking woes. Outside of Rendell, who was great, point after, and Schmidt going 0 for 3 on his field goal attempts. That left a lot to be desired there. But Notre Dame wants to give Eric Schmidt every opportunity to solidify that role, but competition via the portal, as we've seen in the past, most recently with Noah Burnett and Mitch Jeter the year before him, creates that competition, and it gets you a veteran in the room as well, perhaps with a little more experience than even a Schmidt would with a year under his belt. So we'll see what happens. Lots to talk about as the offseason, at least for Notre Dame, continues to go on. The CFP is going to pick up back up again in a few days' time. We'll do a little quick thing on that as well. But we have all the time in the world to get positional breakdowns, incoming 26 group, what the roster might look like next year, and then see where Notre Dame elects to go from the different position groups across the depth chart in the transfer portal. Kicker will certainly be one of them. With that, have a great rest of your Monday, and as always, go Irish.